श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम्। वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। या विद्या शिवकेशवादिजननी या वै जगन्मोहिनी या ब्रह्मादिवीलिकां जगदानन्दैकसन्दायिनी या पञ्चप्रणवदिरेगुणी दिरेपरणी चित्कलामालिनी सा वां भात भगवती श्रीराजराजेश्वरी। ॐ कालाभ्रावां कटाक्षैररिकुलभयदां मौलिपद्येन्दुरेकां शङ्खं चक्रं कृपाणं त्रिशकमभेकरेर्द्वहन्तीं त्रिनेत्रां सिंहस्कन्दातिरूढां त्रिभुवनमखिलं तेजसा पूरयन्तीं ध्यायेद्दुर्गां जयाख्यां त्रिशः परिवृतां सेवितां सिद्धिकामैः चण्डिकायै। So previously we were looking at Navaratri Vrata Yajna. We looked at Yajna and then we were looking at Navaratri Vrata. So Vyasa was narrating this to Janamejaya and we were looking at Navaratri Vrata, how to perform, what should be doing on the previous day, how the preparation should be done, then how on the day, first day of the Navaratri, on the Pratibhadyati, how one should worship Devī 3 times a day, inviting Brahmanas. Through them one should worship her and also make the Brahmanas recite Durga Saptashati or Devi Bhagavata Purana those days. And that's what we are looking, and we will continue that Navaratri Vrata Puja, continuing of that rituals today. We will look at Kumari Puja and then we will look at the merits of Navaratri Puja, what merits one, what benefits one can get from performing such a puja. And also we will look at some of the stories related to Navaratri Vrata, who performed this Vrata previously, and then what benefits they got. This again, simply if we just say that perform this Vrata, we won't do it. So if we tell them this person performed it and some evidence of that, then we might be tempted to perform these Vratas and pujas. That's why there are stories at the end of every Vrata. And also tell how this works, right? So, and I'll also narrate how the Vrata should be done and the rites and procedures of that. So we will start with continuation of that Navaratri Vrata, how it should be performed, starting with Kumari Puja. So we looked at every day Brahmanas should be worshipped, whether it is 1, 3, 9 and things like that, different number of Brahmanas, according to one's own capacity, one should worship. And Vyasa says that Nityam Bhumo Cha Shayanam Kumarinam Cha Pujanam. So every day the one who is performing the Vrata, he should sleep on the ground. Bhumo Cha Shayanam. So he should sleep on the ground and worship the Kumaris. Kumari or Kumara means, Mara means Kama. Okay, Smara. So Ku means, so that means the one who has not attained that age. So they are Kumaras or Kumaris. So here we are talking about very young girls. So he should worship those Kumaris with very sweet meats, modakas and things like that, with beautiful clothing and ornaments and things like that. One should worship. Every day, one Kumari, or increased by 1 or 2 or 3 every day, or 9 Kumaris in all the days, one should worship respectively as one can afford, one can do it. So either 1 Kumari or 2 or 3 or increasing by 1 every day. Okay, start with first day on 1, second day 2 Kumaris, third day 3, like that. Navaratri 9th day, you will have 9 days. Or every day you have 9 Kumaris. worshipped. And one should worshipping this Kumari Puja for the satisfaction of the Devi um, as his means allow. So again, if one can afford 9 Kumaris, he should do it. If not, only one Kumari every day he should worship. And again, Vyasa once again repeats that one should never show any miscellaneous uh, in this. So one should not hold back in giving those Kumaris, whether it is the clothing or sweets or food or ornaments or whatever one should give. One should not hesitate anything on that. One should, as much as one can afford, one should try. And then, so who are these Kumaris? He says, Vyasa explains that Ekavarsha kartavya kanya puja vidhu dhruva paramajna tu bhoganam gandhadinam cha balika. So the Kumaris aged 1 year should not be worshipped because they are quite ignorant to the smell and tasting of various delicious things that's going to be offered to them. They are very much ignorant on anything that's happening, so that's why they should not be worshipped. So Ekavarshana Kartavya Kanya Puja Vida, so you should not worship them. And then he says that Kumarika tu sa prokta divarsha ya bhavedha trimurtischa trivarsha cha kalyane chadarabdika रोहिणी पंचवर्षा च षड्वर्षा कालिका स्मृता चंडिका सप्तवर्षा स्यादष्टावर्षा च शाम्भवी नववर्षा भवेत् दुर्गा सुभद्रा दशवार्षिकी अधवूर्धं न कर्तव्या सर्वकार्य विगर्हिता. So he says that the Kumaris or Kanyas aged 2 years is named as Kumari, and aged 3 is known as Trimurti. The one aged 4 years is known as Kalyani, 5 years is known as Rohini, 6 years is Kalika, 7th year is Chandika, 8th year is Shambhavi, 9th year is Durga, and the Kanya aged 10 years is known as Subhadra. And Ata Urdam na Kartavya Sarvakarya Vigarhita. So the Kumaris or the Kanyas aged more than 10 years are not allowed in the ceremonies because they are considered as Rajaswala. Even though the girls have not aged, not started menstruation, they have not reached that age started, still above 10 they are considered and they are not allowed in the Kanya Puja or Kumari Pujas. So they are not allowed. So it is aged between 2 and 10. They are the ones that should be allowed, and they are respectively known as Kumari, Trimurti, Kalyani, Rohini, Kalika, Chandika, Shambhavi, Durga, and Subhadra. So from 2 to 10. And one should worship these Kumaris by taking their names and observing all the rules. And Vyasa then narrates different results from arising worshipping these Kumaris and of 9 classes of these Kumaris. So that is from age 2 to 10. So there are 9 different types of Kumaris, that's Kanyas, that can be worshipped. So he mentions that. So the worship of Kumari, that is aged 2, leads to extinction of miseries and poverty, and one's enemies will be destroyed, and increment of the riches and longevity and power. So that's the benefit of worshipping a Kanya of age 2 years, and the one worshipping aged 3 years, known as Trimurti, worshipping her, that such a Kanya yields to longevity and the acquisition of dharma, artha, and kama, coming with the riches of sons and grandsons and things like that. Those will be blessed as well by worshipping a Kanya of aged 3 years. Then one should by worshipping the one aged 4 years, who is known as Kalyani. Those who want learning, victory, and kingdom, happiness, they should worship Kalyani. So who is the aged 4. And then the one aged 5, known as Rohini, should be worshipped for cure of diseases. So if any suffering from any disease or illnesses, one should worship aged 5 Kanya, and she is known as Rohini. And then aged 6 is known as Kalika. if one should worships with devotion, the enemies will be destroyed by worshipping Kalika. So again, Kalika in the form of Kanya, age 6. And then Chandika is age 7. She should be worshipped for prosperity and riches. And then Shambhavi, aged 8, should be for enchanting and overpowering one's enemies and the removal of miseries and poverties and victory in the battles. One should worship Shambhavi. And then for the destruction of awful, terrible enemies and for happiness in the next world, one should worship Kanya, aged 9, who is known as Durga. And then aged 10, Subhadra, should be worshipped for those who want their desires to be fulfilled. Any other desires to be fulfilled, they should worship age 10. So this is the benefits of worship in the Kanyas. Now, how they should be worshipped? Vyasa says that people should, with great devotion, worship the Kanyas with the mantras starting with Sri Rastu and other mantras beginning with Sri. So, or the Bija mantras of Devis one should worship. Again, the Brahmanas who is going to be appointed for these vratas, as we looked at yesterday, they should be very well versed in Devi Upasana and they should be performing these mantras and chanting. Again, just because here I say that one should chant these mantras and things, that suddenly it's not right to search in Google and then start chanting those mantras. Okay, so it should be done as per the rules, that's prescribed rules, how one should do. And then Vyasa also explains what are the mantras or should be chanted while worshipping these Kanyas. And while worshipping the Kumari Devi, the one aged 2, one should say the Kumarasya Tattvani ya srijatyapi leelaya kadinapi cha devam tam kumarim pujayamyam. So, O goddess, the goddess who can create without any difficulty all the sacred tattvas of Kumara Kartikeya and who affects as if in sport creation of all the devas, brahmas and others, I am worshipping the same Kumari Devi. Saying this, one should worship a Kanya aged 2. And then aged 3, who is known as Trimurti, should be worshipped saying Sattvadibhir Trimurtirya Tairhim Nana Surupini Trikala Vapani Shakti Trimurtim Pujayamiham. So she who is appearing under the three forms as differentiated by three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas, and who is appearing in the multiple forms owing to the differentiation of the three gunas again into various minor differences, I am worshipping that Trimurti Devi, her as the Trimurti Devi. And then the aged 4 Kalya, known as Kalyani, should be worshipped as Kalyanakarini Nityam Bhaktanam Pujitanisham Pujayami cha tam bhaktya kalyani sarvakamadam. So she who being worshipped always fares us with auspicious things, I am worshipping her with devotion. The Kumari Kalyani, the awarder of all the desires, I am worshipping her. Like this, the aged 4 Kanya should be worshipped. And the aged 5 Rohini should be worshipped as Rohinti cha Bijani Prag Janma Sanchitani Vai Ya Devi Sarvabhutanam Rohinim Pujayamiham. I am worshipping the Rohini Devi with heart full of devotion, who is germinating all the karmas in the seed form and that have been accumulated owing to past dates. So she is the one that's going to destroy all those Purva Janma karmas and then give us the moksha. So I'm worshipping that Rohini Devi. And then aged 6 is Kalika Devi form and Kali Kalayate Sarvam Brahmanam Sacharacharam Kalpanta Samitam Kalpanta Samiye Yatam Kalikam Pujayamiham. So she who at the end of the Kalpa gathers unto her in the form of Kali all this universe, moving and unmoving, I am worshipping that Kalika Devi with devotion. And then age 7 is Chandika, Tam Chanda Papaharnim Chandika Pujayamiham. So with that one should worship. She who is furious and wrathful and hence called Chandika, who killed the demons Chandamunda, I bow down to her humbly with devotion. That Chandika Devi who destroys the terrible sins. I am worshipping that Chandika. And then 8, Shambhavi. So, Akaranat samutpattir yanmayaihi parikirtita yasyastam sukadam Devi Shambhavi pujayamyaham. I worship the Shambhavi Devi, the giver of all pleasures and happiness, whose form is the Veda Brahma, and whose origin is without any cause, who is so recited in the Vedas. I am worshipping that Shambhavi Devi. Like this, the aged 8 Kanya should be worshipped. And then the 9th is Durga Devi form, and Durga Trayati Bhaktam Sa Bhaktam Ya Sada Durgarti Nashini Durjneya Sarvadevanam Tam Durgam Pujayamyaham. She who saves us from the danger, she who saves from the danger of her devotees, and who always delivers from various difficulties and troubles, whom all the devatas are incapable to know. I worship with devotion. That's Durga Devi, the destroyer of all the calamities. So, like this, the aged 9 girl, Kumari Kanya should be worshipped as Durga Devi form. And then the final one is 10th is Subhadra Devi form, aged 10. Subhadrani cha bhaktanam kurute pujita sada abhadra nashinim Devi Subhadram pujayamyam. And I, with my mind devoted, offer salutations to Subhadra Devi, who procures all the auspiciousness to her devotees and removes all the inauspicious incidents. I am going to worship that Subhadra. Like this, the aged 10 Kanya should be worshipped. So, like this, with all these in the mantras said, people should always worship the Kanyas, giving them the clothing, ornaments, garlands, scent, and various other articles, and give them the food and feed them very well. So, those Kumaris, so Vyasa then narrates the Kumaris who should not be included in the puja. Okay, the Kanyas who should not be included in the puja. He says the exclusion list as well. So the Kanyas who are defective in limbs, who are lepers, and who are filled with sores or ulcers all over their bodies, whose bodies emit offensive smell, whose bodies are polluted, or those who are of bad family, or are never to be accepted for the worship of Navaratri ceremony, festival, and as for the Kanya Puja. And those who are born blind or squint-eyed, or those who are one-eyed, or those who are of disgraceful appearance, whose bodies are overgrown with hair, and those who are suffering from illness, disease, and those who are in their menstruation or in any signs of indicating that they are passionate youthful tendencies. So if they have passed, if they are already matured in those ages, even though they are under age 10, under 10, or those who are very lean, thin, or those who are born of widows, or the women, or those who are born of unmarried women, are also be avoided in this Kanya Puja. So, and Vyasa says that it is only healthy, graceful, beautiful, without any ulcers, and who is not illegitimate. Those Kanyas are to be selected for Kumari Puja. So, this is the criteria for selecting the Kumaris for the puja. Now, he explains who should worship whom. Okay, so Brahmani Sarvakayeshu Jayarte Napavamshaja Labharte Vaishya Vamshotha Matava Shudra Vamshaja. So, in all the cases, the Kanyas born of Brahmana family can be taken. Okay, can be worshipped in all the cases. When victory is desired, when one is looking for Jaya, victory, then Kumaris of Kumaris of Kshatriya family should be worshipped. Jayarte Drapavamshaja. So one should worship the Kumaris, Kanyas belonging to Kshatriya families, Kshatriya Varnas. And when Labharte Vaishya. So when one looks for profit or wealth, one should worship the Kumaris, Kanyas of Vaishya family, and in all the other cases, general welfare is wanted, one should worship Shudra Kumaris should be taken for the worship. Now, that is the general rule. Now, Vyasa goes into next level of detail where he says, Brahmanaiva Brahmaja, Brahmanair Brahmajaha, Pujya Rajain Brahmavamshajaha, Vaishyas Trivargajaha, Pujyas Chatursaha, Pada Sambhavaihi, Kurubhischaiva, Vamshotta Yatha Yogyam Prapujayet. So he says that Brahman in the Navaratri Puja, this Kanya Puja, Brahmana should select for the worship of Brahmana Kumaris only. Okay? And Kshatriyas can worship Kshatriyas and Brahmana Kumaris, Kanyas. Vaishya can worship the three, Brahmana, Kshatriya and Vaishya Kumaris, and Shudra can select anybody. So previously we looked at, for example, saying that if one wishes victory, okay, he should select Kshatriya. If someone wishes to have wealth, he should worship Vaishya, right? But if the worshipper is a Brahmana, he cannot select a Vaishya even though he wishes wealth. Okay, or he wishes victory, he cannot select Kshatriya. He should always worship Brahmana Kanyas. Because he says that, Vyasa clearly says, here again says that Shudra can select any Varnas of the four Varnas, and because Brahmanas must always select Brahmana Kumaris. So by selecting Brahmana Kumaris, he will get everything. Similarly, Kshatriyas, by worshipping Brahmana or Kshatriyas, even though he wants wealth, he should not select Vaishya Kumaris, he should select only Kshatriya and Brahmana Kumaris, and by worshipping them, he will get things. And Vyasa also says that, but the artists and artisans should select the worship of the Kanyas from their own families and tribes or Varnas respectively. They should not select the others. So that's what he says. And then he also goes into details of 9 days Navaratri. Okay, if what happens if one cannot afford to do all those things for whatever reason, he says that if a person is unable to worship on all the days, then Ashtamyancha Visheshana Kartavyam Pujanam Sada. So he says that if one is unable to worship on all the days, it is advised that they should perform the special worship on the 8th day, Ashtami Tithi. On the Ashtami Tithi, one should worship, because in the ancient times, on that 8th day, Bhadrakali, the goddess destroyer of the sacrifices, she is the one that destroyed the sacrifice of Daksha. Okay, she came out, appeared on that day in the hideous form, surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of yoginis, and she destroyed Daksha's sacrifice on that day, Bhadrakali. And that's why, if one unable to worship Kanyas on every day, one should at least worship on the Ashtami Tithi. That's what Vyasa says. Therefore, one should worship in particular on the Ashtami Tithi with gandha, garlands, scents, garlands, pastes, and various other offerings. One should worship Devī and also Kanya Puja. One should. And on that day, he also says, Payasai Ramishai Home Brahmanam Cha Bhojanai Palapushpa Paharescha Toshaye Jagadambika. So on that day, Payasa, food prepared with rice, milk and sugar, Payasa one should prepare, and that to be specifically to be offered to Devī, and the Homa ceremonies and feeding of the Brahmanas, the worship of the Devī are to be done with special various offerings, fruits, flowers, and good quantities should be offered and worshipped, and Brahmanas, danas, and things like that should be done. Therefore, and Vyasa also says now, he is also giving a lot of exceptions here. Initially, yesterday and earlier we looked at worshipping on every day. Now he's giving all the exception. If one cannot do, what should do? Okay, so Ashtami Tithi on Kumari Puja or special pujas. And then he says that those who are unable to observe the fasting in this Navaratri Puja will reap the same fruits if they observe the fasting or the 3 days only. That is Saptami, Ashtami and Navami Tithis. If one observes the fasting, they will get the same benefits, same fruits as observing the 9 days. That's if you are unable to do the fasting. Just because Shastra says that do 3 days is sufficient, suddenly people will look, okay, I will do only 3 days. Okay. If you can do 9 days, one must do on 9 days, and avoiding the other 6 days and leaving it to 3 days is not going to help. So because we always look for the shortcuts, right? Saptamyam cha tathashtamyam navamyam bhakti bhavatah Triratrya karanat sarvam phalam bhavati pujanat. So on the 7th, 8th and 9th days, in these 3 tithis, if one worships devotion, one will acquire all the merits. That's what Vyasa narrates. And he says that puja bhishchaiva homescha kumari pujanaistatha sampurnam tadvratam proktam vipranam chaiva bhojanaihi. So when Devis worship, Homa, Kumari or Kanya Puja, Kumari Pujana, and feasting of the Brahmanas, so feeding of the Brahmanas, all these are done, then you should know that the Navaratri Puja is completed. So this is the method of worshipping the Devi during the Navaratri Puja, Navaratri Vrata. So Vyasa says that Sampurnam Tadvratam. So that Vrata is complete by completing worshipping Devi, Homa, Kumari Puja, and Brahmanas, feeding the Brahmanas. The Vrata is concluded. So like this, one should perform this Vrata for 9 full days. And in the worst case, one unable to do it on the Saptami, Ashtami, and Navami Tithis. So 3 days one should observe. So he says that. So now he explains what are the merits of this Navaratri Vrata. So he explains the merits here. He says that no worship or a Vrata or a Dana that exist in this world that can be compared as regard to meritorious effects as Navaratri Puja. I mean, this is some sort of line we see in every Vrata. Okay, standard we see. Satyanarayana Vrata says Vratanam Shrestha. Okay, this is this Uttamam Vratam. So this is the Vratam. So among all the Vratas, this is the Vrata. Ganesha Vrata, this isn't. The reason is, the starting with that statement is because it says the devotees who are listening and who are hearing this, they will get attached to that. Okay, this is the best one. Perform this. So you are already listening. That means you are already interested. So this is again giving more interest in that. Ultimately, as we looked in the first day, whether you worship Ganesha Vrata, whether you do Narayana Vrata, whether you do whichever the Vrata you do, you are ultimately worshipping same Brahman in different forms, whether we do Navaratri Vrata or same, right? So that's why all the Vratas are Uttama Vratas. As long as Vrata is performed as per the rules and guidelines that's divine, as per the Vedic path that's given, Shastra said, as per it's performed, it is all Vratama Vratas only. There is no, just because it says Navaratri Vrata is Uttamam, there is nothing greater than this. Again, if you go to charity sections of the Dana giving sections of the any Purana narration or anywhere, it says that giving this Dana, earth or cow or gold or whatever it is, there is nothing else. No Vratas or worships or other Danas will be equal to this. Okay, it is a way of praising the act that we are discussing here. And similarly, as we looked at earlier in the first day Pratipadita, when we looked at saying that, okay, Devis is worshipped here as the highest here, as the Paramatma Tattva, right? So Devi is said as the supreme and worshipped as the supreme here. In that form we are worshipping. Okay, that's why that's the praising. It is not Nindana or saying that other Vratas are not good. Okay, that doesn't mean you should not do other Vratas or Dana or anything like that. It is just giving a higher position here, saying that this is the best one. Okay. Then Vyasa says that Dhanadanya Pradam Nityam Sukasantana Vruddhidam Ayurarogyam Dam Chaiva Swargadam Mokshadam Tada Vidyarthi va Dhanarthi va Putrarthi va Bhavenara Tenedam Vidivatkaryam Vratam Saubhagyadam Shivam. So by observing this Navaratri Vrata, one gets the riches, Dhanadanya Pradam, riches, crops, sons, grandson, prosperities, happiness, longevity, health, heaven, Swarga, and moksha. So one gets that. And those who are desirous of learning, Vidyarthi va, Dhanarthi va, Putrarthi va, Bhavenara. So those who are Vidyarthi, Vidya, desirous of learning, or riches, Dhanarthi, or Putrarthi, getting the sons. Sons again means sons or daughters, children, will get them if they perform this most auspicious Navaratri Vrata, and able to which is able to confer the fortunes on the devotee. So that Vrata gives all these things to them. And Vidyarthi Sarva Vidyam Vai Prapnoti Vrata Sadhanat Rajya Brashto Rupo Rajyam Samavapnoti Sarvada Purvajanmani Yairnunam Nakrutam Vratamattamam Ye Vyadhino Daridrascha Bhavanti Putravarjitaha. The one on the performance of this Vrata, those who want learning gets the learning, and he who is deprived of the kingdom will get all his kingdoms, and those who did not in the previous birth perform this great Vrata, they become, and the second line, sorry, Purvajanmani Yairnunam Nakrutam Vratamattamam. So those who did not perform in the previous birth this Vrata, they become deceased, they become poor, they become devoid of sons in their present birth. Te Vadino Daridracha Bhavanti Putra Varjita. So if one does, so that's saying that if one does not perform the Vrata in this life, next life, we will have a lot of illnesses, Daridrash, we will have poor, we will be poor, and Bhavanti Putra Varjita will not have children. So that's what it's saying. So one should perform the Vratas. So Vandyacha ya Bhavennari Vidava Dhanavarjita Anuma Tatra Kartavya Neyam Kritavati Vratam Navaratri Vratam Proktam Nakritam Yena Bhutale Sakatam Vibhuvam Prapta Modate Cha Tatadhivi Raktachandana Sammishri Komalair Billopatrakehi Bhavani Pujita Yena Sa Bhaven Drapati Kshito. So he says that those women who are barren, or those widows or devoid of sons, they never in their previous births have performed this sacrifice, and those who are not performed Navaratri ceremony cannot acquire the riches of the world or acquire the happiness, peace in the next birth. He was worshipped Devi Bhagavati, Bhavani Devi, with young bilva leaves and smeared with sandal paste, red sandal paste, and he will undoubtedly become the king of this world. And that man who has failed to worship Devi of this Devi Bhagavati, who's through Devi Bhagavati, who gives all the pursuits of human life, who destroys all the troubles, pains, miseries, who is auspicious, that Bhavani, and such a person, Nunam Daridro Bhavatiho Manava. So if one is suspicious on that Bhavani, surely he will pass in this world his days as wretched, impoverished, and surrounded by his enemies on all the sides. So if one fails to worship, he will Daridro Bhavati. So then when Vyasa also says that when Hari, Hara, Brahma, Indra, Agni, Varuna, Kubera, Surya, when all these possessing all the wealth and the powers and filled with great felicities, when they meditate constantly on this Devi Bhagavati, who is all the existence, intelligence, bliss, and Satchidananda Ghana, she is that then what to speak of the human beings? Why human beings should not worship? When Harihara, Brahma, Indra, Agni, Varuna, Kubera, all of them are worshipping, why human beings should not worship? And how it is that a person do not worship Chandika Devi, one who leads to highest success, that is the moksha. How can one remain without worshipping her? And he also says that the people should worship Devi Bhavani, who gives all the happinesses and whose other names are Swaha, Swada, she is the from whose the devatas and pitrus all are satisfied. So such a Devi should be worshipped in every sacrifice with the Vedic mantras. And the Brahma creates uh, using her power, her Shakti, and Vishnu sustains using her Shakti, and Shiva destroys using her Shakti. So such a Devi should be worshipped, and this whole universe can have his existence without having recourse to that Prakriti Devi, the Shakti incarnate. But so Gandharvas, Rakshasas, Pishachas, mountains, trees, everything, all sustain, all continue because of her Shakti. Therefore, one should, everybody should worship that Chandika Devi, who is the awarder of all the wealth and desires. So one should, and a man desiring the four objects of human pursuit, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, one must observe this vrata regarding this Devi. And also Vyasa says that Mahapataka Samyukto Navaratri Vratam Charet Muchyate Sarva Papebhyo Natra Karya Vicharana. So much so that even a man who has committed heinous offenses, Pancha Mahapatakas, who has committed those, he performs this Navaratri Vrata, he will be absolved entirely from all the such sins. There is no doubt in this. Again, Pancha Mahapatakas are killing a Brahmana, Brahmahatya, and then second one is drinking alcohol, third is stealing gold, and the fourth one is adultery with Guru's wife, and the fifth one is association with any of these four people. Okay, so those are Pancha Mahapatakas. So 5 heinous sins. So again, first one, for example, Brahmahatya. It says Brahmahatya. Okay, so killing Brahmana. You don't have to kill a Brahmana to get Brahmahatya sin. For example, simple things, we call it simple things. Okay, we may do it without intentionally also sometimes. For example, a cow is grazing somewhere and you push that cow away from that grazing, okay, or you don't give that drink to cow when it is going for a drink and you push it, send somewhere away, you scare it away, okay, things like that, or beating the cow. See, those are putting rubbish into the home agni, okay. So these are all equivalent to Brahmahatya, and they're all same as Brahmahatya. So one doesn't have to kill a Brahmana to get Brahmahatya sin. So like this, there are many other instances where Brahmahatya sin one can get Brahmahatya sin, similar status or severity as Brahmahatya sin. Like this, there are force or drinking of alcohol, stealing gold. Again, any stealing is great sin. Gold stealing is even, and adultery with Guru's wife is another thing. So, and fifth one is association with any of these. So, even if I don't do it, as long as I'm attached to any of them, having friendship with them, associating with them, then it is equivalent to doing those things. So that's why such sins are absolved by performing this Navaratri Vrata. That doesn't mean that it gives the rights to perform those, conduct ourselves, engage in those kind of sins and then do the Navaratri Vrata. This is again, I said yesterday, day before yesterday, stealing 100 pounds and then giving away 10 pounds in charity is not going to resolve. And it is not going to absolve the sins of stealing something. Okay. Similarly, here, just because there is Navaratri Vrata, I'm going to commit all these heinous sins today, and then I will do the observe Navaratri Vrata next year. That's not going to work. So it is only when unintentionally something happens, one can absolve all those sins through this Navaratri Vrata. And there is with a clear prayaschitta and then repentance and all those things, then only the sin can get absolved. So that's how the Vrata Pala is narrated by Vyasa. Vyasa then goes on to narrate the story of couple of stories related to this Vrata. First, he narrates of a story related to a Vaishya. So a merchant in the country of Koshala. He was very poor, he was miserable, and having under him many relationship dependents of his family whose provisions he had to provide. He had sons and children, and they were very hungry and distressed, and they used to get very little food. And that evening, only when every day he used to get only one evening meal they used to get, and nothing else whole day they used to suffer and hungry in the meals for meals, food, and they're surviving. And when it was like that, he was very much anxious and distressed. He maintained somehow his family members, and this trader, this merchant, was very quiet in temper. He never used to get angry. He was of very good conduct. He's truthful and always ready to act religiously. And he was devoid of any anger. He was steady, contented, and he was void of vanity, jealousy. And daily he used to worship devatas and pitrus and atithis, and he used to take his meal after all his family members had taken his meals. Again, this last sentence, the first, I think everything is clear. Last sentence is again very important. When an Ejaman of the house and the lady of the house, they should always take the food after serving everybody, including the children, servants, and everybody. Okay, so we see a lot of places, or we hear a lot of things saying that they don't serve these servants thing, same thing, or things like that. In the olden days, that's how all these things started, caste system and various other things, right? So Shastras clearly says that one should even, for example, we see this repeatedly mentioned, whether it is in Ramayana or Mahabharata, Mahabharata, for example, in Vanaparva, Draupadi says that I used to eat after serving everybody, making sure that all my maids and servants, everybody has taken food. Then only after that I used to eat. And even when they were in forest, she used to do that, feed all the brahmanas and everybody. And that's where we here have come across a story of Durvasa coming in when she also had her food. That means everything was empty. Okay, so that's when Durvasa comes and story. So that's why that food that Ejaman of the house, the lady or the man of the house, they eat at the end after serving everybody. That's considered as amrita. That's nectar. Okay, so that's considered as amrita. That's why one should feed everybody. Guests, atithis first offered to devatas, brahmanas, atithis who comes as servants, children, and then take the food, and finally the last they should take. So like this merchant was living, and that merchant named Sushila, he was very much perplexed with the poverty and hunger, and one day he comes across a Brahmana, and he addresses the Brahmana saying that how this state of poverty can be get rid of. Kindly tell me what I should do. How can I maintain my family? They are all hungry. I don't want, I can't see them burning with this hunger every day. My heart is burning with grief and sorrow. My house, everybody is weeping, hungry. My daughter has come to marriageable age. I have no money. Her age, she's already in that age, exceeded the marriageable age. What I'm to do? Please show me the way. Tell me the means, be it asceticism, dana, vrata, or reciting some mantras by which I can maintain my family. And he says that I just want the wealth just sufficient for the purpose and nothing more. I don't want to be rich and live like a luxurious life. I just want to maintain this family and do the necessary things. That's all I want. Tell me what can I do. So at that time, this Brahmana whom he asked, he tells him about this Navaratri Vrata. He says that do the Navaratri Vrata, which is the most auspicious, worship Devi Bhagavati, perform the Homa, feed the Brahmanas, have Vedas and Puranas recited, then slowly Shakti Mantra repeated, and try as much as you can do. Do all those ceremonies, and your desires will definitely be fulfilled. And he also explains that there is no other vrata superior to this than in this world, which is this vrata is very holy and will bring you happiness, and this vrata will lead to wisdom, jnana, and finally mukti. So it destroys all the enemies and increases the prosperity and posterity. So he also says that the Brahmana also says that previously Sri Rama himself performed this vrata, and through that he also benefited. And as a result of that, you also similarly you also perform this vrata. Having said that, the Vaishya then gets initiated in the Devi mantra, and then he slowly recites that mantra again. Mantra japa, there are rules and things, so that's again not when one gets that diksha and things like that is told. So here he does those mantra japas, and during the 9 nights he does those mantra japas and then worships the Devi. Like this, he conducts himself for 9 consecutive years, performing those vratas, and on the 9th year, Devi appears in front of him, and then on the Ashtami Tithi gave him various boons and delivered that Vaishya from poverty and bestowed him the wealth and other his desired things were granted to him. So Vyasa narrates that story, and then he also narrates to Janamejaya how Sri Rama previously performed that vrata. Vyasa, while narrating, he narrates the complete history of Sri Rama from his birth to going to forest, or him going with Vishwamitra, and then marrying Sita, and then with Lakshmana and Sita, him going to forest because of Kaikeyi. There, him killing the Danavas, and then living in the Panchavati. There, Shurpanaka coming and her nose and ears cut off, and then she goes to Ravana, and then Ravana, with the help of Maricha, coming and kidnapping or taking away Sita, like this. So Rama, Lakshmana were wandering in the forest, and they come to Kishkinda, and there Narada comes there. So I'm not going to narrate all the stories up to that point, because assuming all of you are very familiar with Ramayana, and I'm not going to narrate how many children Dasharatha had and what their names are and all those things. So we'll come to this scene where Narada coming. So Narada comes while Rama with Lakshmana was at Kishkinda. Narada comes there, and Rama explains to him, after worshipping him, giving him Arghya Padya and all those, and seat and all those things. Narada Rama tells him that he is very much in grief, searching for Sita. She's nowhere to be found, and she's been taken by Ravana. So he is searching for her. And Narada at that time narrates the Navaratri Vrata and asks Rama to perform that vrata. He says that I'm now going to tell you that how Ravana can be killed. Perform this very month, Ashvija month, this vrata with devotion, fasting for 9 nights, worship Devi Bhagavati, repeating the mantra silently, and performing the Homa ceremony. Observe all the rules that's associated with the Navaratri Vrata, and that will certainly fulfill one's desire. So perform such a vrata, Navaratri Vrata. You should offer the sacrifice before Devi Bhagavati, and perform the japa and homa, and equivalent again, homa ceremony equivalent 1/10 of japa. So it's always japa is performed 10 times of homa. So if you are giving 108 ahutis, so 1000 japas is performed. Okay, so and then tarpana is again a 10th of that. So like this, and if you do all this, you will certainly be able to release Sita. So that's what Narada says. And then he says that in the olden days, Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma, Devatas, in the Swarga, all performed this worship of this Devi, and therefore, O Raghava, you also perform this vrata. Every person desiring happiness, specifically those who have fallen under great difficulties, must perform this auspicious vrata without any hesitation. Vishwamitra, Bhrigu, Vasishta, Kashyapa, all of them did this worship before. And when some stole away wife of Brahaspati, some in the sense here Chandra, who stole away Brahaspati's wife Tara. That time also Brahaspati worshipped Devi Bhagavati and he got his wife back. Therefore, you do also perform this puja for the destruction of Ravana. This vrata was practiced previously before by Indra for the destruction of Vratra, and by Shiva for killing of Tripura, and Narayana for killing of Daityas Madhukaitaba. And you should also firmly perform this vrata with full devotion in your heart, whole heart. You should perform this vrata. And Rama then asked, who is that Devi? What is her influence? When she was sprung, and what is her name? How the vow should be observed? Kindly describe all those things to me. And Narada then again explains the Devi's Rupa. He explains that the Devi is eternal, she is Sanatani, and she is ever constant Shakti, primordial Shakti. And if you worship her, all your difficulties will be removed and all your desires will be fulfilled. She is the source of Brahma, Vishnu, and others, and of all the living beings. Without her Shakti, nobody will be able to even move their limbs. And that auspicious Devi is the preserving energy of Vishnu, creating power of Vishnu, Brahma, and destroying force of Shiva. Whatever there exists in this infinite universe, this Brahmanda, everything, whether it is temporal or eternal or long-lasting, she is the underlying force of our Shakti of all of them. And that's why she has no origin. And her origin is not Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesha, Surya, Indra, or other devatas, nor this earth, nor the upholder of the earth. She is devoid of all the qualities, Nirguna. She is the one who gives the moksha, and she is the full Prakriti. And in the time of Pralaya of this universe, she lives with the Paramapurusha. So she lives with them, and she is unites, and she is that. She is Saguna, full of quality. She is the creator of Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesha, and has empowered them in the very way to create of the three lokas. She is the Param Jnana. She is the one existing before the Vedas and the originator of the Vedas. And individual jivas, knowing her nature, become free from this bondage of samsara. So once one realizes her true form, they attain moksha. And she is known by endless names. Brahma and other devatas might choose to call her according to their actions and qualities. And Narada says, I am unable to describe all those names one could describe that Devi with. So her endless names are formed from various combinations. Narayana says that if you just Narada says that if you repeat the vowels and consonants starting from A to Ksha, A, I, E. So like this, the vowels and consonants, and Kaka, Kanya, like this, so all the consonants and letters, if you do that and the various combinations of that, that's her name. So any combination you can make up, that's her name. So she is known by everything. So Rama then asks again how the Vrata should be performed, and then Narada explains the details we looked at yesterday. For example, preparing an mantapa, a plot, level plot with the seat, and then the Devi worshipping her, fasting for 9 days and worshipping her. And Narada also says that I will be your priest and I will help you with carrying out the yajna and fulfill your work. I will help you in fulfilling the work you are here doing for the devatas. And then Rama, hearing all this from Narada, believed it to be true, and on the approach on that Ashvija Masa, in this Ashvija month, he prepared an mantapa on top of the hill, placed Devi Bhagavati form in there, and then observing all the rules, performed that vrata and worshipped that Devi. Fasting for 9 days, Rama performed that vrata and offered sacrifice and performed the vrata with homa ceremonies, homas, and so on. When the Ashtami Tithi on that night, when the two brothers completed their vrata as told by Narada, the Devi Bhagavati was pleased with the worship and appeared before them mounted on a lion, and remaining there on that mountain top addressed Rama and Lakshmana, and she told them, Rama, I am very satisfied with your worship. Ask me what you desire. And she also explains that you are sent by Devatas for the destruction of Ravana, and you are a Amsha, you are a part, Amsha Avatara, you are a part incarnate of Narayana itself. In the pure stainless family of Manu, you are born. So Manu Swami in the Surya Vamsha, you are born, and it is you in the olden days incarnate as a Matsya form, fish form, for the purpose of Devatas and preserve the Vedas by killing the terrible Rakshasas for the welfare of this universe. And it is you who incarnated previously. I took Avatara as a tortoise form, Kurma Avatara, and held the Mandara mountain during the churning of the ocean and nourished the Devatas. It is you who took the Avatara off in the olden days as a boar and held aloft this earth in your teeth. And then you also took the avatar of Narasimha and preserved Prahlada by killing Hiranyakashipu with your own sharp nails. And it is you who in the olden times assumed the form of a Vamana avatara for the purpose of Devatas by deceitfully cheating Bali and born as a younger brother of Indra. And it is you who took Avatara as son of Jamadagni, that is Parashurama, in the Brahmana family and destroyed the Kshatriya kings and gave the whole earth to Kashyapa. It is you now born as Dasharatha's son. So in that Kakusta race you are born. So at the request of Devatas for the destruction of Ravana. These powerful monkeys, these wanderers, born of Devatas, they all endowed, they all have the Shaktis given by me, and they will help you. Your younger brother Lakshmana himself is a Shesha's incarnate, Shesha's avatara, and he will definitely kill Indrajitu and help you in this battle. The Ravana will also will be killed by you, because then you would worship me again with great devotion in this in the spring season, in the Chaitra Masa, you will worship again. So Devi says that, and she also says that for full 11,000 years you will rule the earth as a king and then re-enter the heavenly adorb. So you will return to your original form. So saying this, Devi disappeared, and Rama also became very glad. And after completing that auspicious vrata, he performed the pujas, and on the 10th day, and gave a lot of presents to Narada and made him go towards the. Finally, he went towards the ocean, and like this, Rama managed to kill Ravana, and well simulated by that Parashakti, the Mahadevi, Rama was reached the shores of the ocean, and with the help of Lakshmana and the Vanara Sena, then he built that bridge and crossed the ocean and killed Ravana, and then he attained unparalleled fame across all the three lokas. So Vyasa concludes this narration of Navaratri Vrata and its merits and the stories related to this, and he says that anyone who hears this Vrata procedure, the merits of it, and the stories related to this with devotion, this excellent account of Devi, will get the greatest happiness in this world, and in the end will get the final moksha they will get, and there is no doubt in this. So with that, this Navaratri Vrata narration concludes, and from tomorrow we will look at Madhyama Charitra in Devī Mahatmya, where we'll look at Mahishasura Vada. So we'll look at Mahishasura's birth, and then how he harassed Devatas, and then how he was killed, and what happens after that. So we'll look at that. That's part of the middle history in the Devi Bhagavata, Devi Mahatmya Saptashati. I said there are three parts, right? So Uttama Charitra, which is Pratama Charitra, which is Madhukaitapavada, which we already looked at. Then Madhyama Charitra is Mahishasura Vada, and then finally Shumbha Nishambha Vada is Uttama Charitra. So we'll come to that last. So that's the story of Navaratri, details of the Navaratri Vrata, and we will look at the Mahatma, Devi Mahatma from tomorrow, the rest of the Devi Mahatma. And if we get time on the last day, we will look at Indra's worship of Devi as well, because just now I said, as Narada was narrating to Rama, the method of Navaratri Vrata and things like that, who previously performed. He also said, Narada said that previously Indra worshipped Devi and killed Vratra. The Danava Vratra, he killed Daitya Vratra, he killed him. Like that. So we'll look at, if we get time, we will look at that on the last day before we go to Palashruti. So with that, we'll conclude today's session, offering final our prayers to that Mahamaya Jagadambika. ज्ञानिनामपि चेतांसि देवी भगवती स बलादाकृष्य मोहाय महामाया प्रयच्छति दुर्गे स्मृता हरसि भीतिमशेषजन्तोः स्वस्यै स्मृता मतिमतीव शुभां ददासि दारिद्र्यदुःखभयहारिणी कातुधन्या सर्वोपकारकराणाय असदार्थचित्ता सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिके शरण्ये त्र्यम्बके गौरी नारायणी नमोऽस्तुते शरणागतदीनार्थपरित्राणपरायणे सर्वस्यार्तिहरे देवी नारायणी नमोऽस्तुते सर्वस्वरूपे सर्वेशि सर्वशक्तिसमन्विते भयेभ्यस्त्रायिनो देवी दुर्गे देवी नमोऽस्तुते रोगानशेषान् भान्ति दुष्टारुष्टादकामान् सकलान्नभीष्टान् त्वामाश्रितान् त्वामाश्रिताः श्वेतां प्रयान्ति सर्वबाधा प्रशमनं त्रैलोक्यस्याखिलेश्वरी जीवमेव त्वया कार्यमस्मद्भैर्विनाशनम् अपराधशतं कृत्वा जगदम्बेति चोच्चरेत् यां गतिं समवाप्नोति न तां ब्रह्मादयसुराः सपराधोऽस्मि शरणं प्राप्तः त्वं जगदम्बिके तानि क्वनकम्प्योऽहं चितेच्छसि यथेच्छसि पदा गुरु अज्ञाताद् विस्मयभ्रान्त्या हिन्योधमधिकं कृतं तत्सर्वं क्षम्यता दिवि प्रसीद परमेश्वरी कामेश्वरी जगन्माता सच्चिदानन्दविग्रहे ग्रहाणार्चमिमां प्रीत्या प्रसीद परमेश्वरी सर्वरूपमयी देवी सर्वं देवीमयं जगत् अतोऽहं विश्वरूपां त्वां नमामि परमेश्वरी यदक्षरपदभ्रष्टं मात्राहीनं चेद्भवेत् पूर्णं भवतु तत्सर्वं तत्प्रसादं महेश्वरी श्रीजगदम्बार्पणमस्तु।